Defense, survival, control. Huang leaned forward. There is a difference between being capable. The combat training facility was the largest space on Station Terminus 7. Its walls could project any environment. Its floor could simulate any terrain, and its safety systems could stop live weapons in midair if necessary. Today, those safety systems were being tested to their limits. The observation deck was packed. Word had spread quickly through the academy. Students, instructors, and even some off-duty officers crowded against the transparent barrier, all wanting to see the humans demonstrate their claims. Whispers filled the air like static. Tirlak sat in the front row, his arms crossed over his broad chest. As a Vrexian, he stood nearly 7 feet tall with dense muscle and natural armor plates along his shoulders and forearms. His species had evolved as pack hunters on a harsh world. They were one of the few predator species in the coalition, and they were proud of their strength. "This should be interesting," Tirlak said to the student next to him. "These soft humans think they can fight. I want to see them try." Down on the training floor, Velthar stood with Commander Huang. The 3 human cadets were warming up in a corner. Doyun moved through slow, precise stretches. Jinho practiced quick movements, his hands and feet flowing through patterns. Mirai was checking equipment and reviewing something on a data pad. "They look so calm," Velthar observed. "Are they not nervous?" "They have done this many times before," Huang replied. "Combat training is mandatory in Earth's military forces. These 3 are not beginners. What were their previous assignments?" "Dohyun was a sergeant in our Marine Corps. Jinho was special operations. Mirai was a combat medic." Huang paused. "They are good at what they do." Velthar activated the facility's systems. "We will begin with standard scenarios. Combat drones programmed with predator attack patterns. They are set to training mode. They will stop before causing serious injury." 6 drones materialized in the center of the floor. They were shaped like various predator species, 4-legged, 6-legged, bipedal. Their movements were aggressive and fast, mimicking real hunting behavior. "Cadet Kang," Velthar announced. "You may begin when ready." Jinho stepped onto the floor. He wore simple training clothes, no armor, no visible weapons. He looked at the drones and smiled slightly. The drones attacked. What happened next would be discussed in academy classes for years to come. Jinho did not run. He did not raise shields. He did not call for help. Instead, he moved forward to meet the attack. His movements were fluid and impossibly fast. The first drone lunged at him with metal claws. Jinho stepped to the side, not away, but closer, and struck the drone's joint with the edge of his hand. The drone collapsed, its leg damaged. The second drone came from behind. Without looking, Jinho dropped low and swept his leg in a circle. The drone tumbled over him. Before it could recover, Jinho was on top of it, his hands finding control points and pressure sensors. The drone went still. 2 drones attacked together. Jinho somehow moved between them, using their own momentum against them. They collided with each other while he flowed past like water. In the observation deck, the whispers had stopped. Everyone watched in complete silence. The entire exercise lasted 90 seconds. When it ended, all 6 drones were disabled. Jinho stood in the center of the floor, breathing only slightly faster than normal. He bowed toward the observation deck. Velthar found her voice. "That was... How did you know where each drone would attack?" "Body language," Jinho replied. "All creatures telegraph their movements before they act. Weight shifts, muscle tension, direction of focus. Once you learn to read these signs, predicting attacks becomes simple." Mirai stepped forward. "If I may, Instructor, I would like to provide some educational context for what you just witnessed." "Please do," Velthar said weakly. Mirai activated her data pad. The holographic display showed anatomical diagrams. "Humans have studied biology extensively. We understand skeletal structure, muscle groups, nervous systems, and circulatory systems. This knowledge helps us heal, but it also helps us understand vulnerability." She pointed at different areas on the diagram. Every biological system has weak points. Joints have limited ranges of motion. Nerve clusters can be disrupted. Balance depends on specific organs. When Jinho struck the first drone's leg joint, he was exploiting mechanical vulnerability. When he swept the second drone, he was disrupting its balance center. "You weaponize medical knowledge?" a Kethrian student asked, her voice trembling. "We use all available knowledge," Mirai replied calmly. "Understanding how a body works means understanding how to heal it or how to stop it. Both applications come from the same information. Tirlak stood up suddenly. I want to test this. Let me face one of the humans. The observation deck erupted in nervous chatter. Velthar looked at Commander Huang, who nodded slightly. Cadet Tirlak, this is highly irregular. Velthar began. I volunteer, Instructor, Tirlak said. Let us see if humans can actually back up their claims against a real opponent. Do-hyun stepped forward. I accept. This will be a controlled match, Velthar announced firmly. Stop immediately when either participant yields or when I order a stop. Safety systems are active. Is this understood? Both students nodded. They moved to opposite sides of the training floor. Tirlak was nearly twice Do-hyun's size. His natural armor would protect against most strikes. His strength was legendary. Phyrexians could bend steel bars with their bare hands. He looked confident, even amused. Do-hyun looked calm. His hands hung relaxed at his sides. His breathing was steady and slow. Begin, Velthar said. Tirlak charged forward with terrifying speed. His strategy was simple. Use his size and strength to overwhelm the smaller opponent quickly. It was standard Phyrexian combat doctrine, and it usually worked. Do-hyun waited until the last possible moment, then moved. He did not move away. He moved forward and to the side, closer to Tirlak than seemed safe. His hand shot out and touched Tirlak's neck, a light touch, almost gentle. Tirlak stumbled. His left leg suddenly stopped responding properly. He turned confused and swung at Do-hyun. The human was no longer there. He was behind Tirlak now. Another light touch, this time to the lower back. Tirlak's breathing became difficult. Not impossible, just harder. He spun again, faster this time, trying to catch the human. Do-hyun moved like smoke, always just out of reach. Another touch, this time to the side of the knee. Tirlak fell to one knee. He tried to stand, but his legs would not cooperate. His breathing was labored. His left arm felt weak. He had not been hit hard even once. The human had barely touched him. Yet his body was failing. I yield, Tirlak said, his voice strained. The match had lasted 45 seconds. Do-hyun immediately moved to help Tirlak sit properly. The effects will pass in a few minutes, he said quietly. I struck nerve clusters and pressure points. No permanent damage. Mireille rushed over with her medical scanner. Impressive control, she said to Do-hyun while scanning Tirlak. You avoided all the dangerous areas. Tirlak looked up at Do-hyun with new understanding in his eyes. You were not trying to win. You were trying not to hurt me. Yes, Do-hyun replied simply. You are a student, not an enemy. I wanted to demonstrate technique without causing injury. You could have hurt me, Tirlak said. It was not a question. Yes, badly? Do-hyun hesitated, then nodded. Phyrexian biology has 17 critical vulnerability points that can be reached without tools. I touched 3 minor ones. In the observation deck, absolute silence reigned. Then someone began to clap. Others joined. The applause was not enthusiastic. It was nervous, almost frightened. They were clapping for something they did not fully understand. Velthar watched the medical team help Tirlak to his feet. The Phyrexian was already recovering, just as Do-hyun had promised. She watched Mireille explain the medical data to the team. She watched Jinho reset the training drones for the next demonstration. The humans had proven their point. They were not violent. They were not aggressive. They were simply competent in a way the coalition had never encountered before. Commander Huang received a message on her communicator. She read it and her expression grew serious. She walked over to Velthar. Instructor, we need to end the demonstration now. Why? What has happened? The demonstration was recorded and transmitted. It is being watched across coalition space right now. Huang paused. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. Some species are calling for Earth's expulsion from the coalition. Velthar felt her heart sink. And the others? Others want to form strategic partnerships. Others want humanity to teach them what we know. Huang looked tired. We have revealed ourselves as apex predators. Now the galaxy must decide what to do about it. Velthar looked at the 3 human cadets. They stood together, talking quietly. They looked so ordinary, so young, so harmless, but now everyone knew the truth. Humanity had walked among the stars for less than a year, and they had already changed everything. The demonstration was over. The real test was about to begin. The Coalition Council chamber was built to inspire peace. Its walls showed images of member worlds, green forests, blue oceans, golden plains. Species from across the galaxy met here to discuss trade, diplomacy, and mutual protection. Today, the peaceful atmosphere was shattered. Council members argued in a dozen languages, their translation devices struggling to keep up. Some representatives stood and shouted. Others huddled in groups whispering urgently. The center of all this chaos was a single holographic recording, the demonstration from Station Terminus 7. Ambassador Thelkor, a Ketherian who had served on the council for 20 years, watched the recording play again. He watched the human called Jinho move like water between attack drones. He watched Do-hyun disable Tirlak with gentle touches. Each viewing made his concern grow deeper. "These creatures are dangerous," he said firmly. "They possess knowledge of violence that threatens everything we have built." Ambassador Vree, representing a bird-like species called the Avalons, disagreed. "They possess knowledge, yes, but they also showed restraint. The human did not hurt the Vrexian. He could have, but he chose not to. That makes them even more dangerous," Thelkor replied. "They can calculate exactly how much damage to cause. That is not instinct, that is cold, systematic planning." The Vrexian ambassador, an older female named Kortha, spoke up. "I have spoken with Cadet Tirlak. He says the human treated him with respect. He says the human could have ended the fight in many ways, but chose the gentlest path. Is that not worthy of consideration?" "They are predators," Thelkor said. "Apex predators by their own admission. The coalition was founded to protect prey species from predators. How can we allow a predator species to join us?" Commander Huang sat quietly in the human delegation area, listening to the debate. She had expected this reaction. Fear was natural when facing something new and potentially dangerous. The challenge was helping them see past the fear. The council chair, a wise old being from a long-lived species, called for order. "Commander Huang, you have requested permission to address the council. Speak." Huang stood and walked to the center of the chamber. All eyes turned to her. She took a breath and began. "Honored council members, I understand your fear. What you witnessed was shocking. But allow me to provide context about humanity that your initial reports may have missed." She activated a holographic display showing Earth. "Our world is beautiful, but it was never easy. Humans did not evolve as the strongest species on our planet. We were not the fastest. We did not have natural weapons like claws or sharp teeth. We survived through intelligence and adaptation." The display showed various Earth animals, lions, bears, wolves. These creatures were stronger than us. Any of them could kill an unarmed human easily. But humans learned. We studied these predators. We understood their behavior. We developed tools and strategies, not because we were naturally violent, but because we had no choice. "You became predators to survive predators," Vree said thoughtfully. "Yes," Huang replied. "And in the process, we learned something crucial. We learned when to fight and when not to fight. We learned that violence is a tool, not a solution. We learned that the strongest survivor is not the one who fights most, but the one who chooses their battles wisely." The display changed to show human cities, hospitals, schools. "We built civilizations not through violence, but through cooperation. Yes, we know how to fight, but we also know how to heal, how to teach, how to create. Our medical knowledge is deep because we understand biology. Our tactical knowledge is precise because we value every life." Thelkor was not convinced. "Beautiful words, Commander. But your cadets displayed systematic knowledge of how to disable living beings. That knowledge exists in their minds always. How can we trust beings who think that way?" Before Huang could answer, a voice came from the entrance. "Because that knowledge also teaches us what not to do." Velthar walked into the chamber. She had not been invited to speak, but the council chair allowed her to approach. She stood next to Huang. "I am Instructor Velthar. I teach at the academy. I was present for the demonstration." She looked at the council members. "I have been thinking about what I witnessed. I was frightened at first. I admit this freely. But then I spoke with my human students." She turned to face Thelkor directly. "Ambassador, you say humans are dangerous because they know how to hurt others. But I have learned something. They know exactly how much damage they can cause, which means they know exactly how to avoid causing it. Cadet Do-hyun could have broken 17 of Tirlak's bones. He chose to touch 3 pressure points instead. That is not lack of control. That is perfect control." Tirlak himself entered the chamber then, still moving a bit stiffly. He spoke without being called. "I fought the human. I lost in seconds. But I am here uninjured because he chose to leave me uninjured. That choice was harder than simply defeating me would have been. He looked around at the council. My species are predators. We understand hunting. But what humans have is different. They do not hunt from instinct. They hunt from decision, and that means they can also decide not to hunt. I trust that choice more than I trust instinct. Huang seized the moment. The coalition has spent 300 years avoiding violence through defensive postures. This has worked because most species in the galaxy are peaceful, but predator species exist, pirates exist. Aggressive civilizations exist. When they attack coalition worlds, what do? We run, we hide, we wait for help. She let that sink in. Humans offer an alternative. We can teach defensive aggression. Not violence for violence's sake, but strategic response. We can teach your soldiers how to think like predators without becoming predators. We can help the coalition protect itself actively rather than passively. Ambassador Vri leaned forward. You are offering to train coalition forces? We are offering to share our knowledge, Huang corrected. Not to make warriors, but to make survivors. To teach understanding of threats so they can be properly addressed. The debate continued for hours. Compromises were proposed, rejected, and revised. Finally, a consensus emerged. The Council would not expel humanity. Instead, they would implement a trial program, the Human Integration Initiative. Selected coalition personnel would train with human instructors. The goal was not to create human-style soldiers, but to help coalition forces understand threat assessment and active defense. It would be voluntary, it would be carefully monitored, and it would begin immediately. Back at the academy, Dohyun, Mirai, and Jinho received the news. They were being promoted to instructor positions. They would teach the first integrated classes in coalition history. This is a big responsibility, Mirai said quietly. We will be shaping how the entire galaxy views humanity. We teach what we know, Dohyun replied. Nothing more, nothing less. If we do it well, they will understand we are not monsters. And if we do it badly, Jinho asked. Then we confirm their fears, Dohyun said simply. So we will not do it badly. The first class assembled the next week. 20 students from 15 species. Most were herbivores who had volunteered despite their fear. A few were predator species like Tirlak who wanted to understand human methodology. All of them were nervous. Velthar attended as an observer. She watched the human instructors carefully as they began. Dohyun stood before the class. Welcome, he said quietly. I know many of you are afraid of what you might learn here. Some of you are afraid of us. That is natural. We are going to discuss things that make you uncomfortable. He paused, making eye contact with several students. But I promise you this, we are not here to teach violence. We are here to teach understanding. When you understand how threats work, you can respond to them appropriately. Sometimes the appropriate response is to run. Sometimes it is to fight. The skill is knowing which is which. A small Kethrian cadet raised her hand. My name is Lyra. I am scared of everything. How can someone like me learn what you know? Dohyun smiled gently. Fear is not weakness, Lyra. Fear is information. Your instincts tell you when danger is present. We will teach you what to do with that information. You do not need to stop being afraid. You just need to learn to act despite the fear. Mirai took over. Today we begin with the simplest concept, sympathetic understanding. To respond to a threat, you must understand what the threat wants and needs, not to become the threat, but to predict it. She showed diagrams of various predator species. Every creature acts according to its nature and needs. Predators hunt because they are hungry. They attack because they feel threatened. If you understand these motivations, you can often avoid conflict entirely. Tirlak spoke up. This is what you did during our match. You predicted my movements. Yes, Dohyun confirmed. Phyrexians are pack hunters. You are trained to charge aggressively and use strength to overwhelm. Knowing this, I could prepare appropriate responses. You turned my strength into a weakness, Tirlak said. I used your momentum, Dohyun corrected. Your strength remained your strength. I simply did not fight against it directly. The class continued. The human instructors moved slowly, carefully. They taught theory before practice. They emphasized understanding over action, and gradually, the students began to relax. Velthar watched it all. She saw Lyra, the frightened Kethrian, begin to ask intelligent questions about predator behavior. The classroom was quiet except for the soft hum of the station's life support systems. Instructor Velthar stood at the front, her 4 legs steady on the polished floor. She was Kethrian, a species that looked somewhat like Earth's deer but walked upright and had hands instead of hooves. Her large eyes scanned the room, taking in the diverse group of students before her. Station Terminus 7 was the pride of the Galactic Coalition. Here, young soldiers from dozens of worlds learned to defend their homes. The Coalition had kept peace for 300 years. Most member species were like Velthar, herbivores who had reached the stars through cooperation and careful planning. Violence was rare in their worlds. Predators were even rarer. Velthar touched the display panel. Holographic images appeared in the air. Creatures with sharp teeth and claws, species known for aggression. Today we discuss defensive protocols against predator species, she announced. Her voice was calm and professional. She had taught this lesson hundreds of times. The students watched attentively. There were Kethrians like their instructor, some insect-like chitters who communicated through antenna movements, and even one Vrexian. The Vrexian, named Tirlak, sat in the back. His species were predators, though civilized ones. He looked bored. Among them sat 3 humans, the newest species to join the coalition. Do-hyun Park sat quietly in the middle row. He was young with dark hair and calm eyes. Next to him was Mirai Cho, who often smiled while taking notes. Behind them sat Jinho Kang, broader and more muscular. The 3 humans had been unusually quiet since arriving at the academy 6 weeks ago. They listened carefully, asked few questions, and kept detailed notes. When facing a predator threat, Velthar continued, your first priority is survival through evasion. Your second priority is activating distress signals. Your third priority is maintaining defensive barriers until help arrives. She gestured at the holographic predator. These principles have protected coalition citizens for generations. Several students took notes. One Kethrian raised her hand. Instructor, what if help cannot arrive quickly? Then you maintain your barrier and wait, Velthar replied simply. Predators have short attention spans. They will eventually move on to easier prey. Tirlak, the Vrexian, made a sound that might have been amusement. As a predator species himself, he likely found the herbivore's fear somewhat exaggerated. Velthar ignored him and continued. Now let us review, Velthar said. This is a standard academy question. List 3 ways to disable a predator threat. She expected simple answers. Run away, call for help, hide behind shields. These were the correct responses, proven over centuries. A hand went up. It was Do-hyun. Velthar nodded at him, pleased that the quiet human was finally participating. Instructor, Do-hyun said politely. His voice was calm and even. Could you please clarify the question? Velthar blinked her large eyes. Clarify? The question is straightforward, Cadet Park. Yes, Instructor, but I need to know. Are we discussing temporary disabling or permanent disabling? The classroom went completely silent. Even the soft hum of the station seemed to pause. Several students turned to look at Do-hyun. Velthar stood very still. I do not understand your question, Cadet, Velthar said slowly. Mirai raised her hand. Instructor, my colleague is asking whether you want methods that stop the predator temporarily or methods that stop it permanently. The techniques are quite different, Jinho added. Also, what range are we discussing? Close quarters? Medium range? Long range? And what equipment do we have available? Velthar felt something cold move through her. The way the humans asked these questions, they were not confused. They were not seeking clarification on the lesson. They were asking which specific subset of methods she wanted to hear about. Cadet Park, Velthar said carefully. Are you saying that you know multiple ways to disable a predator? Yes, Instructor. Do-hyun's expression never changed. He might have been discussing the weather, but the answer depends on your parameters. For temporary disabling at close range with no equipment, I can list 7 methods immediately. For permanent disabling, there are more options. At medium range with standard equipment, we have 7 methods? Velthar interrupted. Without equipment? 7 for temporary, Mirai corrected gently. For permanent, Do-hyun could list at least 12, though some are inefficient. Around the room, students began whispering. Tirlak leaned forward, his predator eyes focusing on the humans with new interest. Velthar noticed that her hands were shaking slightly. Cadets, she said slowly. The standard coalition response to predator threats is defensive. We evade, we call for help, we protect ourselves. We do not, We do not attack, Doyen nodded. Yes, Instructor. We understand that is the Coalition way. But you asked how to disable a predator. On Earth, when something threatens you, you stop the threat. Sometimes that means making it unable to continue. Sometimes that means making it unwilling to continue. Sometimes that means making it unable to ever threaten anyone again. The classroom had gone from silent to absolutely frozen. A chitter student's antennae trembled nervously. Velthar forced herself to think clearly. She had read the basic reports on humanity. They were classified as omnivores, capable of eating both plants and meat. They came from a world called Earth, where they had been the dominant species for tens of thousands of years. The reports mentioned they had sophisticated technology and a history of internal conflicts. But those were not unusual traits. What the reports had not mentioned was this casual discussion of neutralizing threats like it was basic knowledge. Cadet Park, Velthar said quietly. What exactly is humanity's classification? Your biology reports say omnivore, but persistence predator instructor, Doyen replied. Humans evolved as hunters. We tracked prey over long distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. We also defended ourselves against other predators. Large predators. Successful predators. We studied them, learned their weaknesses, and then we disabled them. Mirai spoke up, her tone still friendly. It's all in our medical training, Instructor. To heal a body, you must understand it completely. To defend against a threat, you must understand it completely. Humans have been studying anatomy for thousands of years, both our own and others. We know where the vulnerable points are. All major Earth cultures developed fighting systems, Jinho added. Different styles, different methods, but all designed to disable opponents efficiently. Some sports on Earth are literally about fighting. We train for it. We study it. Some of us do it professionally. Velthar looked at the three humans. They seemed so ordinary. They were not large like Tirlak. They did not have claws or sharp teeth. They looked soft, vulnerable. But the way they spoke, calm, precise, systematic, suggested something else entirely. You will need to demonstrate this, she heard herself say. I must see evidence of these claims. Dohyun nodded slowly. Of course, Instructor. When would you like us to demonstrate? Tomorrow. The combat training facility. I will arrange for proper safety measures and observers. Velthar paused. And Cadet Park. You may use any methods you consider appropriate. Understood, Instructor. Dohyun's expression remained calm. Should we demonstrate temporary or permanent methods? Velthar felt her legs tremble slightly. Temporary, Cadet. Definitely temporary. As the class ended and students filed out, Velthar stood alone in the quiet classroom. She accessed her communication device and sent an urgent message to Commander Soyeon Hwang, the human military attaché to the Coalition. The reply came quickly. Commander Hwang agreed to meet. When Velthar arrived at the commander's office, she found a woman in her late 30s with sharp, intelligent eyes. Instructor Velthar, Commander Hwang said, gesturing to a chair. I understand you have concerns about our cadets. Commander, your cadets claimed they can disable predators in numerous ways. They spoke of it casually as if it were common knowledge. Is this accurate? Hwang was quiet for a moment. Yes, it is accurate. Instructor, has no one explained human evolution to you? We were told humans are omnivores. That is incomplete, Hwang said. Humans are apex predators. On Earth, we hunted everything. Animals larger than us, faster than us, stronger than us. We won through persistence, intelligence, and tool use. Every human culture developed ways to fight and hunt. It is fundamental to our survival history. Velthar felt cold. And you did not think this information was important to share? We shared everything we were asked to share, Hwang replied calmly. The Coalition asked about our technology, our politics, our resources. No one asked about our combat capabilities. We assumed it was obvious we survived and thrived on a world full of predators. That requires certain skills. Tomorrow your cadets will demonstrate these skills, Velthar said. Many people will be watching, Hwang nodded. I will ensure they understand the importance of this demonstration. Instructor, I should warn you, our cadets are well trained, but they are also young. They may not fully grasp how shocking their abilities appear to species who evolved differently. They think of combat training as normal. Normal, Velthar repeated softly. Commander? In 300 years of coalition history, we have built a civilization on the principle of avoiding violence. Your species treats violence as a teachable skill, not violence, Instructor. 6 months had passed since the battle at Jiran. The galaxy was changing. Station Terminus 7 had expanded to accommodate new training facilities. What began as a small integration program had grown into something much larger. Students from across coalition space arrived weekly, eager to learn what humans called tactical thinking. Do-hyun stood in front of a classroom that looked very different from the one where this had all begun. Instead of just coalition species, the room now included observers from the Kreth hegemony and representatives from independent worlds who had heard about human training methods. The change was remarkable. Today we discuss decision trees, Do-hyun began. Every tactical situation presents multiple options. The skill is not knowing how to fight. It is knowing when to fight, when to retreat, and when to negotiate. Understanding the difference saves lives. Lyra, the small Kethrian who had been so frightened on the first day, raised her hand. She looked different now, more confident, more aware. Instructor, how do you choose? In a real situation, there is no time to think through every option. You prepare before the situation happens, Do-hyun replied. You train your mind to recognize patterns. When a threat appears, you already know what category it falls into. Is it territorial? Hungry, defensive? Each type has appropriate responses. Tierlak added his perspective from the back of the room. On my world, we taught that all conflicts end in dominance, either you win or you lose. But humans have shown us a third option, resolution without victory. Sometimes the best outcome is when both sides walk away. A Kreth observer, a junior officer named Krath, spoke up. His species had been enemies 6 months ago. Now they sat in human classrooms learning. This is difficult for my people to understand. Kreth culture values direct confrontation. Choosing not to fight seems like weakness. Mireille, who was co-teaching the class, responded to this. Is it weak to avoid unnecessary injury? Consider 2 scenarios. In the first, you fight every threat and win, but you are wounded and exhausted. In the second, you avoid fights when possible, and only engage when necessary. Which warrior is stronger at the end of the day? Krath considered this. The second warrior is stronger, but he may be seen as cowardly by others. Only by those who do not understand efficiency, Jinho said, joining the discussion. On Earth, we have a saying, the best fight is the one you never have. Any fool can start violence. Wisdom is preventing it. The class ended with a practical exercise. Students were divided into mixed teams, herbivores, predators, and humans working together. Their task was to resolve a simulated crisis without using violence. The solutions they developed showed how much everyone had learned. Velthar watched from the observation area. She had become one of the strongest advocates for human integration, publishing papers on how tactical thinking improved survival rates across all coalition forces. Her latest work analyzed the Jiran battle and its implications. Commander Huang joined her. Instructor, you have done remarkable work promoting this program. I simply tell the truth, Velthar replied. When humans arrived, I was frightened. But I have learned that knowledge is not inherently dangerous. What matters is how it is used. We have been invited to address the full Coalition Council next week, Huang said. They want a comprehensive report on the integration program. Some members still have concerns. And what kind of concerns? That we are changing coalition culture too much. That by learning human tactics, we lose something essential about who we are. Huang paused. They are not entirely wrong to worry. That evening, the human instructors met privately with their most successful students. Lyra was there along with Tierlak, several other coalition cadets, and Krath representing the Kreth observers. We need your help, Do-hyun said honestly. Some coalition leaders worry that human training is making everyone too aggressive. They fear we are turning prey species into predators, Lyra spoke first. That is not what is happening. I am still Kethrian. I still value peace and cooperation, but now I understand threats better. When a predator approaches, I do not just freeze in fear. I can assess whether it is actually dangerous or just passing through. That knowledge helps me stay calm. I have changed too, Tierlak admitted. Before human training, I fought from instinct. If threatened, I attacked. Now I think first. I ask myself, is this threat real? Can it be resolved without fighting? Am I reacting from fear or from wisdom? These questions make me a better officer. Krath added his perspective. The Kreth hegemony is watching this program carefully. We have always been warriors, but we lose many soldiers because we fight inefficiently. Humans have shown us that intelligence and planning are weapons too. This does not make us weak, it makes us more effective. Will you speak to the council? Mirai asked. Tell them what you have told us? The students agreed. A week later, the Coalition Council chamber was once again filled. But this time, the atmosphere was different. The humans were not defending themselves, their students were defending them. Lyra stood before the assembled representatives. Her voice was steady. I was terrified when humans first arrived. I watched the demonstration and thought they were monsters. But I was wrong. They are teachers. They taught me that understanding danger does not mean becoming dangerous. She displayed data on her training cohort. My class has students from 12 species. We have practiced human tactics for 6 months. Not one of us has become more violent. In fact, incidents of aggressive behavior have decreased because we understand our own reactions better. Tirlak presented military data. Since implementing human tactical training, Coalition Defense Forces have engaged in 17 confrontations. In 15 of those confrontations, we resolved the situation without casualties on either side. Before human training, our casualty rate was 70%. Krath spoke about the Krath perspective. My people have fought the Coalition for generations. We saw you as weak prey, but at Jiran, one small human ship defeated our command vessel through superior understanding, not superior firepower. That earned our respect. Since then, Krath raids on Coalition space have stopped. Why? Because we now know the Coalition has allies who understand us. Ambassador Thelkor, who had been one of the strongest opponents of human integration, stood slowly. I must speak. I was wrong to oppose this program. I feared humans because I did not understand them. But these testimonies show the truth. Humans have not made us more violent. They have made us more capable. He turned to face Commander Huang. I apologize for my earlier position. The question is no longer whether to continue human integration. The question is how to expand it. The Council voted. The Human Integration Initiative would become permanent. Earth would establish formal military academies on multiple Coalition worlds. Human tactical doctrine would be integrated into standard Coalition training, and humanity would be offered something unprecedented, a seat on the Coalition Security Council. After the vote, Velthar found Do-hyun in a quiet corridor. You did it. You changed everything. Not me, Do-hyun replied. Lyra changed things. Tirlak changed things. They proved that learning human tactics does not change who you are. It just gives you more options. Do you remember when I asked you to list 3 ways to disable a predator? Velthar asked. I remember. I asked if you meant temporarily or permanently. That question changed my entire worldview, Velthar said. Before, I thought there was only one way to deal with threats. Avoid them. You showed me there are many ways, and choosing the right way depends on wisdom, not fear. That night, a priority alert came through the communication network. Long-range sensors had detected something at the edge of Coalition space, a massive fleet of unknown origin. The ships did not match any known design. They were larger than anything the Coalition or the Kreth had ever built. The analysis team worked frantically. These ships were not moving aggressively, but they were not retreating either. They simply waited at the boundary of Coalition space as if observing. Commander Huang called an emergency meeting. Do-hyun, Mirai, Jinho, Velthar, and several Coalition officers gathered in the command center. We have received a communication from the unknown fleet, Huang announced. They call themselves the Collective. They say they have been watching the galaxy for centuries, waiting for something specific to emerge. What were they waiting for? Velthar asked. Huang pulled up the translated message. They were waiting for a species that combines individual consciousness with collective capability. They have been observing humanity since we joined the Coalition. The demonstration at the Academy, the battle at Jiran, the integration program. They watched all of it. What do they want? Do-hyun asked. They want to meet us. They say humanity represents something they have never encountered. Individuals who choose to act as a unified group without losing their individual identity. They find this fascinating. Mirai studied the data. This collective, they are a hive mind species, but a peaceful one. They have observed dozens of civilizations. Most collapse eventually because they cannot balance individual needs with group survival. They think humans have found a unique solution. Is this a threat? A Coalition officer asked nervously. I do not think so, Do-hyun said slowly. If they wanted to attack, they would have done so already. They are curious, not aggressive. This is first contact, not invasion. She saw Tirlak working with herbivore students, helping them understand his perspective. The Jiran system was dying. On the planetary display, red indicators showed where Kreth attack ships circled like predators around wounded prey. The civilian population huddled in shelters while their orbital defenses crumbled under sustained fire. Coalition response ships had arrived, but were being picked apart by the numerically superior Kreth fleet. Captain Taijin Nam stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Indomitable, watching the tactical display with calm eyes. His ship was small compared to Coalition battleships. Humans had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel, but Earth had sent their best. Taijin had commanded special operations for years before joining the space program. "Captain, we are receiving Coalition tactical data," his operations officer reported. "Their defensive formations are collapsing." Taijin studied the display. The Coalition ships were doing everything correctly according to their doctrine, forming defensive clusters, maintaining shields, waiting for reinforcements. Against most opponents, this would work. But the Kreth knew these tactics. They had fought Coalition forces before. "The Kreth are not attacking the formations," Taijin observed. "They are waiting for the Coalition to exhaust their shields, then they will strike. Standard predator behavior. Tire the prey, then kill." Back at the academy, Do-hyun, Mirai, and Jinho watched the same tactical feed. They were linked into the Coalition command network as advisory personnel. Commander Huang had made it clear they could suggest but not command. The Coalition needed to see human tactics work, not have humans take over. 3-1 advantage, Jinho muttered, counting Kreth ships. "They are confident." "Overconfident," Mirai corrected. "They have fought Coalition forces before and won. They expect the same result." Do-hyun opened a communication channel to Captain Taijin. "Captain, request permission to provide tactical analysis." "Granted, Cadet, I am listening. The Kreth fleet follows pack hunting patterns. They have an alpha ship, the command vessel. It will be the largest and most heavily armed. If we identify and disable it, the fleet cohesion will break." Taijin smiled slightly. "You want us to hunt the hunters?" "Exactly. But we cannot fight them directly. They are stronger. However, predators have predictable behavior. The alpha will not hide. It will want to be visible to maintain dominance. And it will personally engage any threat it considers significant." Mirai added, "We make ourselves significant. We harass them. We frustrate them. We make the alpha angry enough to chase us, and then?" Taijin asked. "Then we show them what human persistence hunting looks like," Do-hyun said quietly. Taijin contacted the Coalition fleet commander, Admiral Torvan. The admiral was Kethrian, experienced but clearly overwhelmed by the current situation. His defensive formations were bleeding ships steadily. "Admiral, this is Captain Nam of the Indomitable. I am requesting permission to implement alternative tactics." "Captain, your vessel is too small to make a difference in a fleet engagement," Torvan replied. His voice strained. "I do not plan to engage the fleet, Admiral. I plan to engage their command ship. With your permission, I will draw it away from your formations. This will reduce enemy pressure and allow you to regroup." Torvan hesitated. "Captain, you understand that is suicide? Kreth command vessels are heavily armed." "With respect, Admiral, let me worry about that. My tactical advisors assure me this will work. Do I have permission?" A long pause. "Then permission granted. Try not to die, Captain. Explaining human casualties to your Commander Huang would be difficult." Taijin smiled. "I will do my best." Indomitable out. The Indomitable broke from the Coalition formation and accelerated toward the Kreth fleet. It was not a large ship. Earth had built it for speed and maneuverability, not heavy combat. But it had one advantage the Kreth would not expect. Its crew understood predator psychology. As the Indomitable approached, several Kreth vessels moved to intercept. Taijin ignored them, directing all his ship's weapons at one target, the largest vessel at the fleet's center. He fired a salvo of missiles that the Kreth command ship easily destroyed. "Again," Taijin ordered, "another salvo." The Kreth ship destroyed it even more easily. The Indomitable circled, firing constantly but never causing real damage. It was like a small animal snapping at a bear, annoying but not dangerous. Do-hyun watched the tactical display intently. "The Alpha is ignoring us. We need to be more annoying." Taijin adjusted his strategy. The Indomitable swooped past the command ship, close enough that its shields flickered. Then it targeted not the command ship but the vessels around it. Quick strikes that damaged systems but did not destroy ships. The message was clear. This small ship was making the Alpha look weak in front of its pack. That got attention. The Kreth command ship turned. Its weapons powered up, and then it began to chase the Indomitable. "Contact," Taejin announced calmly. "The Alpha is pursuing." "Now we run," Do-hyun said. "Not too fast. You want it to think it can catch you, but not too slow either." The Indomitable accelerated away from the Kreth fleet, the command ship following. 2 more Kreth vessels moved to support their Alpha, but Taejin focused on staying just out of range, close enough to seem catchable, far enough to survive. Behind them, Admiral Torvin watched in amazement as 3 Kreth ships left the battle to chase 1 small human vessel. The pressure on his formations eased immediately. "What is Captain Nam doing?" his tactical officer asked. "He is being prey," Torvin said slowly, understanding dawning. "He is making them chase him. Just like we do when predators attack our homeworlds. But where is he leading them?" The answer became clear as the Indomitable's course plotted out. It was heading toward an asteroid field, a dense cluster of rocks and debris that would make maneuvering difficult for large ships. "He is leading them into terrain that favors small vessels," Torvin breathed. "He is not fleeing. He is choosing his battlefield." The Indomitable entered the asteroid field at high speed. Its pilot navigated between rocks with precision, using them as cover and obstacles. The Kreth command ship followed, confident in its superior firepower. But the asteroids forced the larger ship to slow down. Its support vessels had trouble keeping formation, and the Indomitable, small and agile, began to fight back. Taejin used the asteroids like a predator uses terrain. He would appear from behind one rock, fire a precise salvo at a specific target on the Kreth ship, then disappear behind another. Each shot was carefully aimed, not at shields or armor, but at sensors, weapon systems, communication arrays. Targeting data from Cadet Cho, his tactical officer reported. Mireille was feeding them real-time analysis of Kreth ship vulnerabilities. "The Kreth use a centralized command system," Mireille explained from the academy. "If you disable their primary communications array, the support ships will lose coordination." Taejin lined up the shot. It required perfect timing and precision. The Indomitable would be vulnerable for several seconds. He waited, patient as a hunter, then fired. The plasma torpedo struck exactly where Mirai had indicated. The Kreth command ship's communications array exploded. Immediately, the 2 support ships began drifting, their coordination broken. "Now finish it," Do-hyun said quietly. The Indomitable circled back. The Kreth command ship, blind and isolated, fired wildly. But Taejin knew exactly where to be and where not to be. His weapons targeted the ship's power core, not to destroy it completely, but to force an emergency shutdown. The Kreth ship went dark. Its weapons stopped firing. Its engines cut out. It drifted, helpless among the asteroids. Back at the main battle, the Kreth fleet saw their Alpha disabled. The reaction was immediate and predicted. Some ships retreated. Others began fighting among themselves, each trying to establish new dominance. The unified fleet became a collection of individuals. Admiral Torvin seized the opportunity. "All ships advance formation. Target dispersed enemy vessels. Do not allow them to regroup." The coalition forces, following new tactics suggested by human advisors, moved aggressively. They focused fire on isolated Kreth ships. They used pursuit tactics instead of defensive positions, and it worked. Within an hour, the Kreth fleet was in full retreat. Some ships surrendered. Others fled into deep space. Not a single coalition vessel was lost after the Indomitable engaged the Alpha. Taejin brought his ship back to the coalition formation. He was greeted by a priority communication from Admiral Torvin. "Captain Nam, I owe you an apology. I doubted your tactics." "No apology necessary, Admiral. You did not have the context to understand the strategy." "Will you explain it to me? How did you know this would work?" Taejin smiled. "On Earth, humans hunted animals much larger and stronger than us. We could not fight them directly, so we made them chase us. We ran them until they were exhausted. We chose terrain that favored us. We targeted their weaknesses with precision. What I did today was not military tactics, Admiral. It was hunting." Back at the academy, the command center erupted in cheers. Students and instructors who had watched the battle hugged each other. Even species who had been afraid of humans now crowded around Dohyun, Mirai, and Jinho with questions. Velthar found Commander Huang in the crowd. Your people just changed coalition military doctrine in a single battle. Huang nodded slowly. We showed them that understanding your enemy is more important than fearing them. Captain Nam did not win the